Okay, today we are going to talk about crushing your toxic thoughts. And I first want to start out by saying that I used to be the king of toxic thoughts. My head was pumping out toxic thoughts faster than I could create them. I wasn't creating them. They were just happening in my head, in my brain. And since I was a part of them, since they were coming from my brain, I believed every word of them. I couldn't crush them. They were who I was. They were my thoughts, right? Things like, you're not good enough. You can't do this. Who do you think you are? Stay in line. Be small. Try to impress everyone to get a little bit bigger, but in the end, it ain't gonna matter because you're no good. And then the worst part of all, what the brain would tell me is, I know how to get out of this situation. Go get hammered. That'll make it all better. And it was just an endless cycle where I'd try and improve my position in life because my head was telling me I was nothing. And in the end, I had to escape it because I couldn't improve because my brain was always sending me this fear and doubt. And it sucked, right? And eventually turned me into one hell of an alcoholic. I was trapped in this alcoholic prison for 8 years, going in and out of detoxes 18 times. And every time I'd come out, people would say, why don't you just stop drinking? And I'm like, you don't get it. I mean, there was nothing I could do. There was no amount of willpower that would shut my brain up to stop making me feel like crap so that I had to get a drink in order to eventually feel like more crap, but at least it fixed me for a little bit. The unfortunate part is eventually the alcohol became a physiological component of my nature, and then my head screamed for it so loud it became more important than food. It became more important than water. It became just as important as breathing. And it was going to kill me. And I needed to stop it. I had to crush these toxic thoughts or I was going to die. Okay. So I tried everything that was out there. You know, I went to the 12 steps and the AA meetings, so they're the same thing. Cognitive behavioral therapy. I tried different spiritualism. I tried all these different scientific approaches, but nothing worked for me. So I decided to make my own thing. And I did a whole bunch of research over a long time. And the first step I took was to kind of leading off of cognitive behavioral therapies to start looking at all your thoughts that are running through your subconscious and not believe a single one of them. They're distorted thoughts. But I was wondering, why in the hell have my thoughts gotten so distorted? And so I looked at things from different points of view. One being behavioral. I was studying neurology and psychology a lot, but behavioral economics came along and gave me the biggest clue. Is instead of starting to look at our subconscious brain as kind of the master guide, the thing that knows everything, the thing that who we really are is to look at it as just a really fast but all-powerful, dumb, functioning system that's just running the show 90% of the time. And if it's infected, which mine was, then you've got to start to learn how not to pay attention to it. But why would it get infected in the first place? And that's where I realized there was a separate thing going on inside of my brain coming from an instinctual core, the programs of our genetic code that were getting run, that were being plugged into this dumb brain, this system one brain. And it was basically, instead of looking at it as who I was, I started to look at it as a separate entity that just happened to be residing in my head. It was hijacking me. It was taking me over. And I started to break down all the different ways it started to take over. And it started to make so much sense to me that I was literally being hijacked from these things. So I decided, and let me show you a little diagram that took me forever to make, but I've really simplified it here. And that is right here. This is what I call the user's guide to the instinctual core. It's where I am this guy up here. And we basically all have this same instinctual core inside of us. What I have become is my consciousness bonded with my conscious brain, that brain that we can use, that we can apply. But that's who all I used to be is all the fear and anger and hate and stress and cravings and demands and judgment that were going on, they were part of who I was. But then when I switched my perspective to see myself as different from the instinctual core, I started to see all the reasons why it would make sense, all the things that it was sending me, like I'm not good enough, and I can't handle this, and don't get out of line, and make sure you get as much as you can, and it's never enough. It all made sense if I was in a world of 30,000 years ago, if I lived in the Stone Ages, if I lived back in a time before we had all this stuff, before our world became 8 billion people instead of a tribe of 100. Because now, instead of my brain wasn't trying to compare me to my tribe of 100 people. My brain was trying to compare me to this new tribe of 8 billion people. And it didn't compute that there's no way I can ever match up in all these different categories. I wasn't good looking enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't funny enough. I wasn't cool enough. Because I was comparing myself against the world. And then we get inundated with this celebrities and these anomalies and these billionaires. And all I said to me was, you're a piece of shit. So, to show you what's going on here, real quickly. So this is the activation layer. This is where everything's coming through our brain. And because our instinctual core, that genetic code, that separate agenda inside of us is using that fast system 1 brain, what we generally refer to as the subconscious, it's able to get first take on everything. Like if a nacho flies in front of your face, it says, oh, we need that for our physiological layer. And it just sends, get that cravings. Oh, judgments, that's delicious. Demands, eat that. But then on a higher level, like safety, like there was no, back then, if someone else had something, you had to have it too. Like if someone else had a bow and arrow, you had to have that bow and arrow too. So otherwise you'd be dead because they'd be outmatched. Or if your tribe had a different type of weapon, you needed it too. So safety involved always having as much as everybody else. And in that first scenario, it was about attaining the treat on the physiological level. But in the second scenario, safety is being able to either defeat the threat or avoid the threat. Anyways, on each of these different layers, I can show you, I'm not going to go through every single one, I can show you how the instinctual core ended up hijacking me. And in this world, I was living in a world where I was totally felt like I wasn't good enough. But it was just this thing it was just basically because of the instinctual core. Then I learned, hey, it's telling me a bunch of lies. Everything in my head is bullshit. I'm good enough, and who cares if I'm not? I'm middle of the pack. And that's great in this world because we've got so much as it is just to be here, just to have life. I wasn't taking advantage and living a life where I started to move my life to away from this being hijacked to start living through what I call the layers of human happiness. So instead of feeling like I was always in this endless battle trying to survive, I stopped living there. Getting rid of, no longer working on these layers, these physiological, the instinctual core survival requirements, which involve immediate threats, physiological, safety, belonging, pecking order, IC evaluation, manageability. I'm not going to get into all those details, but I can show you how each one of these layers is, because of its contrast from the world of 30,000 years ago and the world of today, is messing us all up in a whole bunch of ways. But when we start to live on these layers, the layers of intrigue, and where is my layers of intrigue button? Intrigue, appreciation, and engagement, self-improvement, and purpose. When we start to live up here, all these other things down here get taken care of in a much more dramatic way, in a much more fulfilling way, and a much more highly productive way. When we start to fully engage and not bombarded with these thoughts of fear and these thoughts of doubt that constantly bombard us from the instinctual core. Oh my gosh, my whole life changed. The biggest thing of all was that I lived in this world where this instinctual core was constantly comparing me to the pecking order. Like, was I good enough? Did I measure up? I'd walk into a room like, I don't know these people. Could be my enemies. And the survival, the instinctual core was actually saying, since you don't know these people, they could kill you. Because that's the way it was 30,000 years ago. So it would send me into this kind of state of social anxiety. Now I can walk into any room and not give a shit where anyone is on a pecking order because I've dropped the pecking order altogether. And I just walk in and If I want to ignore someone, that's fine. If I want to walk in and kind of get along and hang out with these people, I just say, there is no pecking order. No one's above me. No one's below me. And these people are just my potential friends that I haven't met yet. And it was so weird. I never felt that shyness went away. And I just was able to go in and start talking to people as if I'd known them forever. And people responded back in the same way. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't acting cool. I was just acting comfortable. And people responded. And it's such a different way to live. And it was shocking that I didn't have to care about what I said. Just went in there and said and acted like myself. Anyways, that's one of just a million examples. And I can go through all sorts of examples with you about how these toxic thoughts are not ours. They've been put there by the instinctual core learning in the wrong way. Anyways, if you kind of get what I'm putting down, like and subscribe. But most of all, if you want to learn how to quit drinking in a new way, if you've been trying to quit drinking, or if you've been trying to get rid of your anxiety or depression or other addictions, I can show you how to use this system. I've broken it all down, every single example. Once I teach this to you, you'll be able to start looking at the inside of your subconscious, the inside of your system one brain, and see if you're being hijacked also. And maybe, just maybe, make long-term, lasting change that you've been trying to make for the longest time. I know it was forever that I was trying to quit drinking. And when I started to look at myself in this different perspective, where I was separate from this invader inside of me, I was able to make long-term, lasting change across the board on everything. And it was fantastic. If you're interested, it's totally free. Just come join us in our IC investigation meetups, the Instinctual Core Investigation meetups at instinctcenter.com. We would love to have you. That is all I've got. Peace out and love you. Adios.